CD19 CAR-T cells have been licensed for treatment of high-grade lymphoma patients in Europe in August 2019. And after this license, several European countries have started to implement the service. But it's, as you know, it's a quite complex and cost-intense treatment. So patients really had to wait to get access on a broad level. And England was really the first country that implemented this service on a broad national basis. So we started to run the program in December 18 with 7 dedicated commissioned CAR-T centers providing this treatment. And treatment of the very unique setup in England is that we have a weekly national panel, have set up a set of objective and transparent eligibility criteria, and all patients who are submitted for this treatment, are considered for the treatment, are reviewed and criteria scrutinized by this panel. So it's a very fair and objective way of providing access to patients who are eligible across the country. The other quite remarkable feature of the setup in the UK is that we're very good, well working network structures. So basically a CAR-T center is linked to a different referring hospitals. So that means that if a patient fulfills criteria anywhere in the country, then they would come through to be considered for CAR-T quite rapidly. So there was from the start quite a great focus and emphasis on equity of access. So the NHS England estimated initially that around 250 lymphoma patients would be eligible or would be considered for CAR-T, and that's actually quite exactly the number that we see. So we have now, in the first year, treated around 250 patients in the UK. We started, as I said, with 7 centres, but there was recently a second wave of more centres coming on board in England, and also Scottish and Welsh centres, so Glasgow and Cardiff joining in. So I think the achievement in the UK is firstly that it was quite a rapid, large-scale setup of a national service, and then different to other countries, this emphasis on equity of access, that literally every patient who is eligible would be brought forward and considered. And then very objective, transparent, well-defined eligibility criteria and referral pathways. So we really know and that it's fair and objective the way we consider and approve patients. And really what we've presented at in the abstract, or we're hoping to present at BSH, is really the experience of the first 6 months of this service. So 125 patients who were approved, and where the advantage of this very tight collaboration of dedicated centers working together is that we have a very high quality prospective data set, so we can exactly see who was eligible and considered for CAR-T, and who would not be well enough to be stable and well enough to go ahead with infusion. So these patients who worry us, who become too unwell, and we can't stabilize with bridging therapy. So we, with this data set that is prospective compared to other real-world data sets where often we only get retrospective data, really provides this high-quality data to look into which patients are potentially the ones who benefit most from this treatment. In terms of outcome, I think it's very, the data we were supposed to present at BSH, it's very early days, so it's a small number of patients, not such a long follow-up, so we really have to wait for further update to know more about long-term efficacy. From what we've seen in terms of 3 months overall response rate, that's quite a good indicator of potential long-term benefit, is that it's fairly in line with what we've seen. So 35 to 40% of patients are supposed to have a long-term benefit of this treatment. What is very encouraging is that we've not seen any unexpected toxicity. So clearly we have managed to deliver this treatment safely and effectively, and that's quite encouraging. And in terms of patient characteristics, it's very much what we've seen in other real-world data sets, and actually also in the pivotal studies. These patients are mainly advanced stage, very refractory, high-risk patients. So that's exactly what we've seen elsewhere. So altogether, I think the main achievement is the setup of this very well-running service on a national basis, providing access to this treatment to all eligible patients, and the ability to collect good quality data prospectively, so we can actually not only now, but more importantly in a few years' time, look into the data to try to understand better which patients do better and do worse. So at the moment, it's encouraging, but not quite in line with what we've seen before. The majority of patients, unfortunately, do not respond long term, but that's what was expected from trial and other real-world data sets. Clinical trial data, you always have to take them with a pinch of salt, because it's a very well selected patient cohort, and that's why the selection bias is supposed to be higher than in the real world setting. Although I have to say, knowing that in many countries there's not a broad national service to deliver CAR-T, the licensed products, to lymphoma patients, you don't actually know which patients are approved and put forward in the real world setting either. So it's again quite a selection of patients, and that will exactly be our problem, that we unless we have a national service similar to the one we have, where we know these are our criteria, and as soon as a patient fulfills criteria, we offer them CAR-T treatment. If that's not the case, if basically a lot of patient selection is driven by the CAR-T center, and they can choose, in inverted commas, more suitable patients, or where the hope is that treatment would be more successful, then we don't know, we can't really factor in this bias. So, but that's a known problem and caveat of clinical trial data. So clearly we have to await large data sets of real-world data across different countries, different healthcare systems, and then try to compare these data, do meta-analysis, etc., to try to understand the data and the clinical benefit of certain subgroups better.